Okay, the next part will be EQing to make the space for other elements in our track. Every sample, as I said, comes from our pack, and every sample here is already very strictly treated with EQing and other processing. That means that they are designed to have already very clear sound. Let's go to the Crash China, for example, and add equalizer. Usually samples will have a lot of low, mids and bass frequencies, even if that's a percussion crash. Of course, microphone will always take some low, mid, bass, sub bass signal. That's why we always need to take the low cut, like this, and cut it from the samples that don't need it. Actually, that could happen that we have some low end here, but we really made sure that nothing has it. So you can save time on high passing every sample that needs it. So at this point, we'll definitely turn off the vocals because we'll take care of them in the separate chapter. You can see that we have a lot of low end here in this noise and we definitely don't want this. So we cut everything from the mids to down. Something like this. Definitely way cleaner. After that, let's EQ also the ambience from the birds. And maybe some of the very highs, since they are taken anyway with the vinyl crackle. That's very important to take down the frequencies that are already taken by another element. Because the birds are actually in this area, as you can see. So we don't need this thing here. Definitely. We leave only this bird here. Alright, after that, let's take the melody. So low mids and mids are our body of our song. That's where the power is. Here, if you got those frequencies right, everything will be a piece of cake. But for example, sub and bass frequencies are usually taken by bass instrument. That's why in the melody loop, we definitely won't want the bass and sub frequencies. That's why we'll cut it somehow like this. This is way cleaner already, without any sub and bass frequencies, which will be already taken by the 808 here. Let's see if 808 needs some EQing. You can see that here we have a lot of frequencies under 30 Hz. And as you know, probably, under 30 Hz is not really audible anymore. And under 30 Hz, nothing will really matter. That's why we'll be cutting it on the master channel after that. So we don't have to take care of it now. What I would do is just make a little bump in the sub frequencies here to add some of it to the 808. Since as the sample, in my opinion, needs a little bit, just maybe 1 dB as it is right now. Now, for example, the miscellaneous guys, we can put the equalizer on top of the bass. And as you can see, probably nothing will be here, but there's a chance that always something will be here. That's why we'll anyway cut it around here. Alright, after that the rhythm keepers. I can already hear some of the low end here. You cannot hear it when I don't boost it, but it's always there. And if you stack up instruments, even with this really soft low end, it can screw things up. That's why we'll always cut it where we don't need it. Here, this guy actually doesn't need the mid frequencies at all, since they're already taken by different miscellaneous elements and rhythm keepers. Alright, the crash is here. Not too much again. But it's always there, that's why we'll just cut it. Alright, the drums. The kick here, I'd like it to be more deep, and that can be done with taking down the low mid to mid frequencies like this. Every kick will sound differently, and it depends of what you want to achieve. But I for sure would like some of the low mids here taken down by about 8-9 dB. And we can boost some of the very lows like this. And maybe take some of the highs. Somehow this kick happens to be way deeper that way with the low mids. That's the boxiness. You can see it exactly on our frequency infographic where we explain what frequency range is perceived like. That is actually very common equalizing settings, with some of the more sub-bass, low mids taken down and the highs a little bit down. That makes this kick go.
These rappers like Reese's and Pieces. I've been a problem since I was a fetus. Earning my stripes like I work for Adidas. And leading my league, better follow the leader. Hit him with a bill, I'm independent when I'm in it. Gotta finish out a minute, shoot the hell my competition.
That's way harder. Let's say we want some less of this effect. It's already a lot. And as you could hear, I had to bring up the volume of the kick to match the gain of it overall.
King, treating these rappers like Reese's and Pieces. I've been a problem since I was a fetus. Earning my stripes like I work for.
Let's make the mixer detached so it doesn't close every time. Snare has as well a little bit too much of the bass frequencies. I can hear it already. Here. That's why we'll take it down, maybe with more harsh low cut. And maybe take down this bad peak here. That process is already called surgical EQing. That means we are swiping through the frequency spectrum and find the problematic frequencies that are too harsh, find it, and then take it down as much as you want. If you take it down too much, it will lose the harshness. That's why you need to always decide what result you want to get. But to surgical EQing we'll get later. The clap now probably could have some of the low end. As I say, some of the claps might have a lot of bass and sub bass. Our samples don't have it already. But let's cut them anyway, just so I feel good about it. I usually take care of the hats exactly the same. Let's take it down as well with the low cut, more harsh one. You can hear some peaks in the low mids. Not too much, but also helps with keeping the space in the mix. The opening hat can stay like it is. And the clapping, that one is pretty tricky right now, because it's layered with the snare. And the pro tip is here, the higher you go in the frequency spectrum, the less layers put. Starting from sub, never ever put two sub bass or two sub instruments. That's why, for example, we'll sidechain kick to the sub bass, making space for the sub while kick plays. You learn it in depth in our courses. After that, the bass, usually I don't layer anyway. Something like 808 is enough. Then low mids are usually taken already by some snare, for example, and main melodies, because as we said already, low mids and mids are our body of the song is, right? So here, not too much, but you can layer. and the high mids and the presence, whoever set it here, and the treble can be layered as much as you need. For example, that's why we have a lot of crashes, wet effects, hi-hats, and this type of stuff, because we can layer them because they will not get into any troubles, first of mono compatibility, but also the muddiness. And in this case, you can see that this clap has a lot of low end by itself. It's sounding good, but with the snare, it doesn't sound as good as if we cut it. Listen to that. Way cleaner and better, right? After that, we have the hip hop snare. This guy also needs a lot of EQing here. It even goes up to the bass. That's why we don't want it, definitely. In that case, for example, we need some of the low end because that hip hop snare makes it pretty hard hitting in those low mid frequencies, right? This snare with this hip hop snare layered sounds way better if we cut it. Somehow has more power, but definitely not if we leave everything. That's why we'll cut it anyway like this. So basically there will be no bass, but the low mids stay. As I said, you're more likely to layer the low mids and mids because they're way easier to carry than layering the bass frequencies. Alright, so we cut a little bit of the bass, about -6 dB. It already makes it way cleaner and at the same time powerful. So in the result, there's no rules actually, but there are techniques to help you get better mixes. That's what it is about.
King, treating these rappers like Reese's and Pieces. I've been a problem since I was a fetus, earning my stripes like I work for a...
I think like the drums should be louder. That's why I will put here Fruity Balance to put it up a little bit.
King, treating these rappers like Reese's and Pieces. I've been a problem since I was a fetus, earning my stripes like I work for Adidas, and leading my league, better follow the leader. Hit him with a bill, I'm independent when I'm in it, gotta finish how to finish who the hell my competition. Started with a vision in the people.
For sure the snares are way cleaner. As you can see, because we made the groups, we could easily apply the EQ above the groups, so you don't have to high cut everything separately. That's why staying organized like this is very, very convenient. And also the samples were already very properly treated. That's why we didn't have to do too much EQing to make space for other instruments. The basic concept of EQing while mixing is to cut all the frequencies that the instrument is not focused on. Exactly what we did. The main melody was not focused on the sub frequencies and bass frequencies. That's why we've cut it to make space for the 808 and kick. After that, all the background crashes and the rhythm keepers and the miscellaneous elements were not focused on it at all. That's why we've cut it. If you would have a flute, for example, to equalize, you would cut also all the low frequencies, right? That's the main element of equalizing and the fundamental to start a great mix.